Good morning and welcome to the Camnet Community Breakfast Show today, 7th March 2022. I am your host, Zipporah Mshala, and I'm joined with my co-host, Alex Shimba. Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Zipporah. Always a pleasure to be with you in this
After a long time, we haven't seen each other the whole weekend.
Are you sure about that?
We worked on different days, so...
Yeah, for real. And like I said, it's quite an interesting reunion. You can put it that way.
Reunion, just 2 days. Yes, yeah. And so today we have some interesting topics for you. As you are aware, tomorrow is International Women's Day. So at 7:30, we're going to be joined by Ms. Harriet Chibuta, who's the Executive Director for the Young Women in Action. Who's just going to take us and set the trend for tomorrow's event. Are we on the right path to achieving gender equality? And then at 8 o'clock, we're going to be joined by Professor Charles Mwape, who is the President of the Christian Coalition, to talk about expectations in the parliamentary address on Friday. As you are aware, President Hakainde Hichilema is expected to address Parliament on Friday regarding national values and principles. So what are the expectations from that address? What is the moral situation currently in the country? Indeed,
we expect everything to be discussed on this platform. And as always, you do call and contribute and ask questions where necessary so that you can have an interacting program so as to learn from each other. At the end of the day, we just want a better Zambia, a better country for us.
Yes, and so Alex, to remove our sleepy mode, we now go into the morning boost as we start our day.
Indeed.
Good morning and welcome to our morning boost, and remember always to try do this at home early in the morning before you start your day. This is not the main workout, but this is just to help you get started your day and keep fit. So therefore, let's go. We're gonna keep it easy today. We'll make some aerobics movements. Aerobics is good for you, for blood circulation, to control your blood pressure, and also to make sure that you stay fit. So we're going to make some basic moves in aerobics. Let's go. Very easy. We start with marching. Go. Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to our show. Let's go. Step touch. Last one. Hamstring. Last one. Knee high. Last one. Lateral legs. Last one. We're going to put now all the four together. That's what we're going to do. Okay, let's go. Last one. And knee high. Last one. Stiff touch. Last one. Step touch. Last one. Knee high. and marching. Keep marching, keep marching, keep marching. We're gonna change now. 2 knee each. Let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's keep pushing. I know you feel like giving up. Check with your neighbor how many minutes you've done. Let's go. Go. 2 each. Now let's do it faster. Change. 1, 2. 4. 4 each. Last 4. 2 each. 2. 2. 2. 3 each. Go. And marching. Go. How are you feeling on your legs? Let's go now. March, 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 march. Keep marching. We're almost there. Let's go. March, 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 march. My producer is dancing behind the camera. I wish I can show you. Let's march. Let's go. Bring in a V step now. It was a pleasure doing a workout with you this morning. I look forward to another workout with you. Make sure stay fit and enjoy the rest of your day. This is Isaac Matsa, and guess what? I'm signing out. Thank you.
Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, we are here also on your screens and on social media, Facebook, Camnet TV Live. You can catch us there and drop your text messages, your comments in the comment section, and call in on this platform as usual so that you can get interacting. We're discussing quite interesting topics, and I'm here with Zipporah Mshala, who are going to help me discuss, and also we'll be joined by 2 guests, one at 7:30 and the other one at 8 hours, obviously, to give us update on various issues that we've aligned in this particular program. So Zipporah,
yes,
what do we expect really?
Yes, and so like I'm sure you know that many gender-based NGOs tomorrow are going to celebrate International Women's Day, whose theme is Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Or the theme is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. So basically, we're looking at how far have we gone in terms of women's rights and all that. Of course, we look at both, because you remember we've had many people saying, even as we maybe push for women's rights, we shouldn't neglect men's rights, because we find ourselves like achieving the exact opposite. So, but then we're just analyzing like how far have we gone in achieving gender equality, because you know by 2030 we've got a goal of achieving gender equality. That's SDG number 5. So are we on the right path? What issues are still there in the country? There are issues like bad traditional practices, for example, that actually hinder the achievement of gender equality. Do women have equal access to jobs? You know, there's some concerns in the country, for example, from the Ministry of Labour, where research has shown that women sometimes find it harder to get jobs more than men because of issues such as maybe taking maternity leave and all that. So, like, how is analysis to make sure that there is gender equality?
Indeed, we'll be just getting there soon. But just now we take a segment called the health segment, where we'll be joined by Dr. Francis Kabwalia, a mental specialist, to just give us an update on mental health. Let's just have a look at this.
Good morning. My name is Francisca Walia. I'm a medical doctor by profession, and I have specialized in psychiatry, which is the mental health aspect of medicine. And today I'm coming to create awareness on behalf of Medical Women's Association of Zambia, MWAZ. And as the women in medicine, we want our nation healthy. And as mentioned in my introduction, I'll be speaking about mental health. Of late, we've seen a lot of various aspects of mental health coming up in the media, on social media, and various media reporting platforms like the news as well. And we would just like to create some awareness. What exactly is mental health? So when we talk about mental health, we're talking about one's cognition, one's behavior, one's emotions. So in simple terms, it's just how one thinks, how one acts, and how one feels. And just listening to this definition, one would actually appreciate that this can affect anyone. And when we speak about mental health, it's important that we appreciate that mental health is a significant component of what health is. When we talk about health, we're not just speaking about how one is physically, but when we talk of health, we're also considering one's mental well-being. And if we go by the worldly accepted definition of health, which WHO refers to, we will realize that mental health is also a component of what health is. And further, it's not just an absence of illness or disease. And that's what we want to normalize. That's what we really want to put across. So when we're talking about mental health, are we only talking about extreme presentations? When someone presents in suicide, when someone is seen on the side of the road, they are undressing, beating everyone around them. Is that what mental health really is? Mental health is actually more than that. Mental health is about one's general well-being, just like physical health is. When you think about physical health, you actually realize that a lot of us are able to describe how we feel physically. A lot of us are able to say, okay, I think I've got a pain in my leg. I think I'm feeling an itchiness here, a bit unusual. I think it's swollen here. But when we talk about mental health, are most of us able to recognize how we are mentally at a particular point in time? So we are emphasizing mental health is not just illness, but it's one's general well-being. So we're talking about optimal well-being. Are you in a place where you're very productive, you're able to apply yourself well, you're socializing with people around you very well, you're able to regulate your mood well? So when we speak about mental health, that's what should come to our mind. And already, just as we are speaking, one thing that we should appreciate is that mental health can affect anyone. It does not discriminate against age or sex or gender. So it can affect a child. There are mental health presentations for children, for the middle-aged, adolescents, the youths, even the elderly. Because one thing that we should realize that at different stages of life, people have different stresses. For one who's at a different stage in their life, they might not appreciate the stress that another individual is experiencing in another phase of life. But what it is that everyone at different phases of life can experience different stresses. And what's important is how is one coping with those stresses? Further, taking into consideration that as human beings, we are different, how we receive different type of stress, how we cope with different type of stress. A certain level of stress can seem okay for one, but it may be overwhelming for another. And when we speak about gender, both male or female are affected by mental health presentations. No, mental health is not just for women. Maybe yes, the women may come out more because in general women express themselves and they have a better health-seeking tendency compared to men. But mental health affects both men and women. Because stress is not unique only to women. Even men experience different types of stress. The form of stress that we experience can differ. And further, how we cope with this type of stress as well can differ. Though in general, mental health affects anyone. And it is important that we have that understanding so that we're able to look out for everyone in our social spheres, in our workplaces, and in various, even religious setups. No one is exempt from experiencing different mental health stresses. So let's look out for one another. Let's appreciate what mental health is and appreciate that mental health can actually affect anyone. I think if we all have this perception about mental health, it will be easier for us to pick it up, to look out for everyone, just like with the way we do for physical health. It's very easy to see, okay, is my child losing weight? Am I taking them for under 5? Are they experiencing any pain? Are they eating well? What about one's mental well-being? Are we looking out for that? Even with our siblings, our parents, our spouses, are we looking out for that? Thank you for listening. I hope this introduction to what mental health is has been helpful to you.
Thank you, Dr. Bwalia, for that update. We really appreciate the knowledge. Mental health is becoming quite a thing nowadays, Zipporah, and we just need to take keen interest in having the knowledge of how to treat ourselves. And one thing that I've taken from that submission is that there is need to talk to someone whenever you feel a bit depressed or even facing a challenge. Talk to someone, find someone you can confide in, and just just open up. You know, don't just harbor to things for a long time. It will really badly affect you. Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's one culture which we Zambians have to actually adopt, because you know that in maybe Zambia and African culture in general, people really don't open up about things.
It's not our thing.
It's more of the Western culture. People just keep things to themselves.
And worse off, the male folk, really, they find it hard to just come out and speak to their friends about anything. For you guys, it's a bit easy because you have way of handling issues differently, and you talk about.
It's important to talk to someone, like maybe a specialist, because you know, like the same issue that we've had in the past, where maybe you tell someone something, you find it on social media, and then you actually get more depressed. So it's actually good to talk to maybe like a specialized counselor, and that someone who can actually keep your information safe. Exactly.
So we just take a look at one of the stories that actually made the headlines on our community desk, and that has to do with
money markets.
We get to update our money market. Okay, so let's just jump in that, and then later on we'll be able to update on the stories that made headlines. So updated today, the 7th of March 2022, the Great British Pound is buying at 23 kwacha.7 one ngwe and selling at 24 kwacha.16 ngwe. And the United States dollars is buying at 17 kwacha.86 ngwe and selling at 18 kwacha.20 ngwe. The euro is buying at 18 kwacha.89 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha.26 ngwe. The South African rand is buying at 1 kwacha.16 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha.19 ngwe. That's what we're having for money market. I've seen a slight movement from the selling part of the United States dollars in exchange to kwacha.
The reduction or an increase?
An increase. It was 18. Okay, can you just go back to that? So the United States is buying at 17 kwacha.86 ngwe and selling at 18 kwacha.20. So there's last week when we were dealing with this, it was both were at 17, if you remember. Both someone 17, but now there's a bit of hike with someone 1 kwacha, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what our money market looks like. In case you are going out there for business endeavors, that's what you expect in terms of money exchange rate.
And so going into a zooming of headlines, Alex, you were talking about the story.
Yes, quite interesting story. Last time we had a bit of side version of it, and then yesterday our own Miriam Kaimba managed to get the other side of the story. So this story has to do with a 70-year-old man of Lusaka's garden compound who was recently accused of leaving pubic hair on his daughter-in-law's bedroom table. Has admitted now, then he was accused, but now he has admitted to having committed this strange, very strange for that matter, strange act that brought marital dispute between his son and wife. So he has, however, narrated that he only left a bed and not pubic hair, whatever that implies. Let's just take a look at the story so that we get more context to it. And later on, we're going to discuss it. Take a look.
On the 26th of February 2022, this 25-year-old woman of Lusaka's Garden House compound rushed to a community-based human rights organization to seek help over a predicament after alleging that a 28-year-old husband chased her from her matrimonial home on account that she was putting the name of a 70-year-old father-in-law to public shame, after she alleged that he shaved his pubic hair and left the remains on a bedroom table.
Vanipishira chifuka ninavauza upali vapongozi kuti vamene vatita vadati visivamushe because avanangwero news ati nigulire kaleza lero napeza vaso vauze vasakabwezepo na futi pamene apa kuti nina vasevane mchoke paja pa nyumba niende kuli wa mami.
However, after getting aside, the organization summoned both her husband and father-in-law. The 70-year-old man accused by his daughter-in-law has admitted to having committed the act, though he claimed to have left a beard and not pubic hair. Speaking in his defense, the man said he had not intentionally left his shaved hair on the bedroom table but did so by mistake.
Okay.
Meanwhile, his son, who accused his wife of starving her father-in-law, observed that on the material day she went to the clinic at 07 hours without cooking a meal for her father-in-law and only came back at 17 hours. He said when he questioned his wife why she acted that way, she said nothing. The man has since explained that he had on several occasions discussed the high cost of living with his wife and that he was trying by all means to ensure that he provided for his family the little he could afford. But he did not expect his wife to reward his effort by adding more problems on him to resolve.
So manje wenu kama timevi batatiwa nje ngangale bazi. So sometimes futi na bwana na bwele futi kuli wamene wena mufunza bangono. Musa ni pafya maningi. Pano pa nyumba bezi wasapa ni wadadi. Mevi ni watatiwa yuzinga wapika pepa ya iyo. Wadadi ni wakula wasanga shiteba menini.
The man has, however, informed Concerned Citizen for Justice and Human Rights that he has since forgiven his wife and has no intentions of chasing her and their children from their matrimonial home, but begged his wife's support to be loyal to their family as they faced the current economic crisis.
But matezo onse kumbuyo ku pangono chabe ika kwa chabe 14 15 ntule kwa drama ya chani yandiyo niambe kuchita kwa nyini pige but malo kulide paka mweni na bwerera na mufunza ukuja ulo sukuji nizaje ulo sinizaje ndiri kulini data manje ni kuyanga kwa bwanji huko sunga niyange chama meno mani yankira ni kuyanga kwa bwanji ufika chama nianga bwanji wanianga mugwino.
Meanwhile, the organization director Richard Nkua, who assisted the couple with counseling process, advised them to love and support each other. Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
Quite an interesting story. So it happened that he refused of leaving pubic hair on the table as it was earlier accused, but beard instead. What do you make of that story?
No, it's just strange happening in the community. I think that's really something that's strange.
Yeah, but we hope they'll settle the matter, and obviously the family will be reunited. Yeah, just the moment that we've been waiting for, I'll leave to Zipporah to just introduce our guest in the house right now.
Okay, so like you earlier explained, tomorrow we're celebrating International Women's Day, and we have been joined by Ms. Harriet Chibuta, who's the Executive Director for the Young Women in Action, to help us like set the trend as we go into tomorrow. Welcome to the show, Ms. Chibuta.
Thank you very much, Zipporah.
Yes.
Good morning once again.
Good morning.
Yes. So just maybe to begin, can you just tell us what Young Women in Action is all about? What does it do?
Okay. So Young Women in Action is a youth-led, youth-focused organization that looks to empower girls and young women in Zambia. So we focus on sexual reproductive health and rights, young women's participation in leadership and governance processes, young women's participation in economic aspects, so socio-economic empowerment, as well as gender and development. How does gender affect how young people, how society generally develops? So that's about Young Women in Action. We are based here in Lusaka, but we are operating in 14 different districts across 6 provinces. Yeah, I think that's a little about Young Women in Action.
Okay, so as we go into maybe like tomorrow's International Women's Day, what are some of the issues that you feel maybe this new administration has to address, issues that you feel are not leading us towards achieving gender equality?
Okay, so when we talk about gender equality, policy is very, very important. I think you Zipporah, you know that we have very good policies and laws in this country, but then what really lacks is the political will, the implementation aspect of it. So it's very important that, especially that we have a new government in place, that they show political will and ensure that all the policies that we have are being followed to the latter, and we'll see development amongst people, amongst young women, amongst women generally, as well as the girls. So I think for us as Young Women in Action, that's one thing that we see as very, very important when we talk about the government's role in ensuring that we're achieving gender equality. But of course, there's also the aspect of social and cultural norms, so ensuring that the tradition and religious leaders are also on board. So it's very important that them too participate in ensuring that we're achieving gender equality, because they are stakeholders, very important stakeholders, who play a critical role in society. The media as well, yourselves, very, very important. So I think generally that's I think that's a bit about gender equality and how the government is involved or should be involved to ensure that we're achieving that.
Okay, so if you're just joining us, you can, we're just opening the phone lines now. You can call us on the numbers that will be showing on the screen and give your contribution. Do you feel that Zambia is on the right path to achieving gender equality? And just to help us as we begin our interview, we're going to take a look at a story on gender, which we compiled like some months ago, and look at where we are right now in terms of gender equality. Let's take a look at that story. According to the United Nations Department of Social and Economic Affairs, Zambia has one of the highest cases of gender-based violence in the world. The country has continued to record GBV cases in the thousands, indicating that the vice is endemic. Apart from causing a breakdown in family bonds, GBV also hampers development, as some cases lead to death, robbing the country of the much-needed human resource for development. With the release of statistics for GBV in the fourth quarter of 2021 on Tuesday, this has brought the total of GBV cases in 2021 to 20,450, compared to 22,048 in 2020. While there has been a reduction in cases reported by about 2,000, gender-based organizations have expressed concern that the cases are still high. The statistics also indicate that the rate of men reporting has increased from the hundreds to the thousands over the years. In this vein, Zambia National Men's Network for Gender and Development National Coordinator Mr. Nelson Banda says this shows that the number of male victims who are willing to report has increased, hence the need to enhance male gender-responsive services across the country.
We need health centers that will respond to address men's emotional issues, okay, or men see none, I don't know how I can put it, but issues that are non-health for men, for instance, emotional issues, okay? They need to be addressed, they can be addressed at in a health centers. You need men to access counseling or just to seek information. Counseling is not just by when you have got a problem of any health related, but you all need men to access those. We need government to begin to plan for more men's health facilities. Okay, because in the next 5 years the situation might double.
Meanwhile, Young Women in Action Executive Director Ms. Harriet Chibuta says there is need for better coordination of gender activities in the country if to effectively fight this vice.
So far, since the introduction of gender division, our works haven't, up to now we haven't concretize our relationship and that rapport that is needed for us to continue pushing the gender agenda. So as Young Women in Action, I think there's still a lot that has to be put in place. We know there's a permanent secretary under the gender division, but a lot has to be put in place, especially that we keep seeing gender issues being neglected in one way or another, and it's going to be even worsened if this division is not strengthened, and our fear is that perhaps even funding to the gender issue is going to reduce because it's simply a division. But then our hope is that there are going to be concrete strategies and mechanisms put in place to ensure that the gender agenda is still being pushed forward through the division, and the relationship between civil society and the government is strengthened.
United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 5, to which Zambia subscribes, hopes to achieve gender equality by 2030, which also entails ensuring that there is a significant reduction of GBV cases. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka. So there you have it, a story which talks about the gender situation right now in the country. And people are very concerned about the high levels of gender-based violence, with women and girls as the most affected. Of course, when we're talking about gender, we look at both aspects. And also in the statistics that were shown in the story, we've seen that the number of men reporting GBV cases has also increased, which is on a positive note. And so, Ms. Chibuta, come tomorrow, what issues are you raising? Maybe for it's International Women's Day for the whole world. So maybe what major issues as women groups, gender NGOs, what issues are you raising?
Okay, so the main issues that we are raising as Young Women in Action are issues around social cultural norms, because this is one aspect that anchors all forms of gender-based violence. So when you talk about political participation in political engagements or civic engagements, we talk about sexual reproductive health and rights, socioeconomic empowerment, all of it is, the strongholds are in the social and cultural norms that we have. So this is a very important avenue that we're advocating for, because it takes very, very long to achieve, to change social behavior, to change mindset. So when we talk about gender equality, as I mentioned, I think earlier, we have very good policies and laws in place, but then what lacks is implementation. And the very, very important people that we need to engage are the social, cultural, traditional leaders, because they have a huge following. People listen to them when Pastor somebody speaks. A huge crowd will understand, and they just have this following. So it's very, very important, and that's what we're advocating for: mindset change. And of course, we cannot run away to advocate for full implementation of the policies that we have. For example, we have the adolescent sexual reproductive health strategy, but then I think some of the issues that we're tackling with now, or that we're battling with around teenage pregnancy, lack of information amongst the young people, all of that is explained in that policy, but then because it's not being fully implemented, because of the social cultural norms and behaviors and values that we hold, it still takes us backwards. So if we handle these social cultural norms and beliefs that are negative, not all beliefs and traditional values are negative, but then the ones that do not promote human rights, if I may put it that way, access to information, access to services amongst young people. So those, I think, for us is that's the very, very important advocacy issue that we're looking at.
Yeah, quite profound. And then again, we've seen Zambia signed in quite a number of protocols as regards to gender protocols. How can we actualize these themes and everything that we always celebrate annually, these themes, and there seems to be an intent and deliberate intention to change the narrative as far as gender is concerned. But from your aspect, really, what are certain challenges that you've identified as an organization and as a person who's in key leadership of your own organization? What are the challenges that you've identified which really avoid us to go forward as a country?
Okay. So you've talked about Zambia ratifying policies or international instruments, protocols. So I think as a country we're very good at signing, to say we're part and parcel of this. But then what I mentioned earlier, implementation. So for instance, the Maputo Protocol was domesticated, which is very, very important. Of course, we ratified to say we're supporting this cause and we're going to affiliate ourselves to the goal of this particular policy that has been put in place. That's just one stage. But then the other stage that's very important is ensuring that we domesticate these protocols and instruments. So the Maputo Protocol, for instance, was domesticated, was domesticated into as the Gender Equity and Equality Act here in Zambia of 2015. So that's very important. There's a general aspect, and then we have to more or less tailor it to our needs, because Zambia's certain perspectives, for instance, when we talk about safe abortion, we've got certain laws in place that guide what a safe abortion is, what safe abortion is, who can access sexual reproductive health information and services. So domesticating to what the country needs and ensuring that it's responding to the crisis on the ground is what's very important. So ratifying policies is very important, but then the critical area is domestication. How are we going to ensure that these policies that we have ratified or signed and agreed to are being done on the ground?
Which we are referring to political will.
Yeah.
But then haven't you observed an improvement, say maybe 5 years, a decade down the line? Haven't you noticed a bit of improvement in trying to promote gender equality, especially from the female side of things?
So I think just as well that I think on the 27th of February it was International NGO Day, which celebrates the strides that civil society or NGOs have made to achieving gender equality or whatever cause it is that they're vying for. So when you talk about from the women's perspective, what are the challenges? Right. So for us, I think as young women in action particularly, when you talk about, I'll give an example of your universal periodic review that was done. So this is an instrument that's done every 5 years, similar to the Maputo Protocol, the CEDAW that we're talking about. You're given recommendations from the UN member countries to say Zambia needs to improve on child early and forced marriages, for example. So what's very important is that civil society are working towards this thing together. I think the women's movement in Zambia has done tremendous work, but then also what's important is other stakeholders. So in terms of challenges, for us as Young Women in Action, all the challenges are tied to social cultural norms. So if we ensure that people are understanding and changing with the way time is moving, then those challenges will be curbed. And we'll not be talking about the same story. I think some people actually refer to the women's movement as a tired story because we're talking about the same things, gender equality or gender-based violence, teenage pregnancies. So when we all play a part in ensuring that these challenges we're talking about today are curbed, then we're not going to be looking at what are the challenges, but what are the solutions that we have, put in place so that we can celebrate together.
Okay, and then in talking about gender equality, we've got one province in particular, I'm sure you know about Eastern Province, whereby year after year we've got high numbers of teenage pregnancies, and also this brings a threat to issues like education, also maybe HIV rates go high. Maybe what could be the solution to such problems? For example, the way Eastern Province has been identified as a place where that happens a lot.
Ensuring that, for example, education is made mandatory. We know that we have free education now for everybody in schools, primary and secondary schools. But then it's very important that, from our view, it would be very good to make it mandatory that every child is put into school. They're getting an education, and there should be repercussions if a family does not take this child to school. So that is one way.
By repercussion, what in specific terms do you?
So
they punish them. They have to pay a fine or something.
Well, either of the two. Either of the two would be good. So I'll give you an example. There was a time I was having a conversation with colleagues in Germany and other places. So in other countries, education is mandatory, and if a family or parents or guardians are found that they're not taking this child to school, then they're punished for it. There's laws, you can go to prison for it. So I think if Zambia also adopts that kind of response, we're going to see a change. So making education mandatory for all children.
Just riding on that. Yeah. Have you heard of this particular story where parents have done everything they could to this girl child or a boy and to take them to school, but this girl just wants to have a boyfriend, for instance, and they just want to go out. She doesn't even pay attention to school. Where do you put the parents? And I mean, such organization as yours, what role do you play in ensuring that this child realizes that education is important?
Okay, so I think this is where Young Women in Action comes in as a very key stakeholder in the communities. So for us, we work to empower, improve, and change the lives of these girls and young women. And when we're doing that, we're talking about advocacy, we're talking about network building, ensuring that they have role models, because that's very critical. If a child has no role model, that's when you see them doing whatever it is. Or maybe they have a wrong role model, because that's also very possible. So Young Women in Action comes in to talk about the importance of education, bring to the children themselves, engaging the young people, the girls, the boys as well, to just ensure that they understand the importance of education. They understand that the future is in their hands, so they have a critical role to play. Of course, the parents have the responsibility to ensure that the child is going to school, whether it's through provision of books or whatever it is, but then just ensuring that this child understands and is taking education very seriously is something very important that we take. So information sharing and creating a network for them. What's important also is a strong support system. If you have wrong friends, I think we all know about peer pressure. If you have wrong friends, you're going to end up doing the wrong stuff or going in the wrong direction. So that's very, very important to talk about self-awareness as well. What is it that a person inwardly and outwardly should understand about themselves? Someone should, or a young person should know their strengths and weaknesses in order for them to be on the right path. They know that if I go this direction, this is my weakness, I'm not going to come out of it. So that's a no-no for me. So for example, if we're talking about young people in universities or tertiary institutions, and you understand, you know that if I take alcohol, I'm completely useless from there on. So this young person would deliberately stay away from these things that are not beneficial to them, but then ride on what is positive or the strengths and the support system that they have.
So more sensitization of the same.
Yeah.
Well,
very important. And so maybe basically you're talking earlier, you mentioned about politics. Are we seeing a lot of women, young women, being adopted, maybe in political positions by these politicians? Maybe, for example, a candidate for a member of parliament. Are we seeing enough of that?
No, not at all. I think we have seen that we've actually taken a step backwards in terms of representation, and representation does matter. So there's a lot that has to be done when we talk about political participation or participation in political processes and leadership. There's the political parties bill, which is very important. We feel that if that one is enacted, it's going to guide political parties on how to put in place affirmative action, ensuring that young people, young women particularly, are being adopted. I think from the 2021 general elections, the reports that we got from the ground, from young people, is that there was a lot of corruption involved in the political parties as well. So the political parties also have to have political will. So they should see a need for young people to participate, young women to participate, because they're very key to development. We need different perspectives to achieving development. So yesterday I was actually thinking about how men and women both play a role to achieving sustainable development, which is tied to the theme of International Women's Day for this year. So imagine a track where athletes run, right? And then on this other side, there's a sun or an obstacle, and the track is made out of a magnet, right? And we all know that women have different challenges or obstacles to achieve, to participating in politics, as you put it. So if we imagine that the obstacles are magnetic shoes, so there's a struggle to achieving this. But then if men and boys jump on board and hold this woman, we work together, we're going to ensure that we all reach at the goal that we want and tackle it together, because there's power in numbers. So for example, if we're talking about global climate change issues, if we all go towards this issue, climate change in this case, I think let's think of a very big hot sun, and maybe you just come there with one bucket of water and pour on it, it won't do anything, right? So if we have everybody taking a part, everybody coming to contribute to quenching this fire, then we're going to see sustainable development. I think by now, if you think about Germany, you think about Finland, Sweden, those are countries that are very progressive in terms of representation in governance and so on and so forth. So if those people are achieving sustainable development, and we've seen that it's because both men and women, same as Rwanda, for example, both men and women are playing a role, we must follow suit, and I think we're going to see development in our country, which is everybody's, I think, concern at the moment, sustainable development.
Quite profound. The numbers are scrolling on your screens. You can call in and just add your thought, what could be the way forward in terms of gender equality. But then, Ms. Chivuta, there's this argument again, just on that thought of us going backwards in terms of representation. And I'm sure it's not just in the political arena, but also in other fields and other sectors. But the argument has also been on capacity. Like they've, political parties and also other organizations, they've said, no, you know what, as we've presented a very equal playing field for everyone to jump on board and grab whichever position. You can be on the top leadership as a president for an organization, or maybe as a president for a certain political party, vice president, or maybe SG, for that particular president or political parties. But the argument is, are you able to actually execute the roles that are attached to that role? And if presented openly, women are not jumping on with that energy compared to the men. So who are we blaming in this case? And what could be conversations henceforth? Are we talking of empowering these women so that they can have also the muscles to actually jump on these positions, either from the political parties or maybe in organizations?
So I'm smiling because when you go into the villages, this village banking, I think we all know about village banking. I worked in Southern Province, and almost all the villages, let's say, I think we worked in about 70 villages doing some research. I think only 1 or 2 had a male treasurer. since we're talking about taking up top leadership and executing roles. So what was interesting was that almost all the villages only had a female treasurer, and we're actually curious to say, why is it that you give this position to women? And everybody mentioned that women are very truthful, they're not corrupt.
As expected.
They're not
that
corrupt.
was coming. So what are you like? Like really?
So when you talk about having the capacity to execute roles, I think that should not be the question.
It's out of
it's out of the question.
Okay, what about your intent to jump on positions?
Yes,
do you do that
so
as well?
Intent is there. I will tell you that from 2019 until 2021, Young Men in Action trained over 70 young women who were interested in taking up leadership at the local government level. So for the councillor position, 70, right? And all of these young people were drawn from different political parties, 7 political parties, the most prominent political parties in the country. And unfortunately, out of all those 70, only about 6 were adopted. So you can say there's intent. Intent is there. Capacity is there, especially amongst the young people. If you go in the rural areas, of course, you find that maybe they don't have all the education requirements that they may need. But then if you look at the urban areas, almost every young person at least has attained some kind of education, and they're interested in participating in politics. The intent is there. They're capable of participating and executing those roles. So I think what is key to ask is, what is it that is preventing these young people from actually participating effectively and efficiently in these arenas, politics, for example? So many challenges. The young people that we're working with were talking about financial issues, so lack of funds, because politics, I think in Zambia, we all know that it's been commercialized, and it's very, very expensive. I, as Harriet, cannot come to Kanyama, for example, and say, I want to be your councillor, and there's no money whatsoever. Everybody's expecting a 50 kwacha, a bag of meal, and we all know the story of unemployment in the country. Young people are not employed because there's just not enough, opportunity, exactly. So it's not about intent, but then the environment. The environment is not conducive at all. So
we have a caller. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. You're through to the breakfast show. Kindly tell us your name, where you're calling us from.
Yes, this is Mandoli calling you from Malaysia.
Yes, good morning, Reverend. You can go ahead with your contribution.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. To make me to start with the previous topic regarding the issue, I think from the Kanyama, the issues have to do with something that we discussed before in terms of, I think, preparation. I know that a lot of preparation needs to go into this particular aspect for our young people to appreciate that, the institution that they get into come with responsibility. And unless they have adequate preparation and understand the various roles that are expected of them, then we are likely to have a self-sense of, unfortunate challenges. And I think just trying to get a little bit of understanding in terms of the role that the old man plays in that whole scenario. To me, I think you should have done better, because at the age of 7, and you have your son who's at 28, I don't know the daughter about how old she was or she is. I think that you should have done better, because just the issue of talking about whether to be there or being here, for me it leaves a lot to be desired as a matter of happiness. So I think that the fact that you did that means that you did drop that particular shape on the table, I think it creates that between the son and the daughter-in-law. So for me, it needed to play a role of not much of that today. So, unlike, also sort of, stepping aside and saying, what I did was what is being alleged and stuff like that. But the critical aspect is for the young people to be there, because now it's an issue. Their roles are expected to speech. And I think that is a critical issue. Come to the issue of women and gender equality. For me, perhaps I want to take a different line of thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think the issue of equality for me should not be what championed. I think it's the involvement that they are participate in the various facets of our society. Because equality, I think it must be contextualized. Because the two sexes will never be equal. I think that must be understood. And the design of our sexes is flawed, and he knows why he designed as different in the male from the female. And so each of us has roles and capacities that are internally built by the creator of what we are capable of doing, what we are not capable of doing. Just like it's not possible for males to conceive, and it's not also possible for females to father children. So each of us have capacities that is disconnected to each one of us by itself. And so I think it's the involvement and the participation in the different facets of society where opportunity should be given for everyone to be able to participate in their given role, in their given capacity. But also I think that the issue of basic education for me, when I emphasize that basic education, because for most of our women folk in our community, whether it's in the city or in the village, I think that's the basic education is critical for them to be able to find themselves in some of these opportunities and be able to effectively either participate or contribute. Because if you listen to even just general reports, I think the power is going to the field, and you understand some of the issues that come from our men folk. You can clear with all due respect, perceive the element of ignorance. But I think that is very, very critical, especially to the organization of the organization and many others that are strengthening, the roles of women in the development of our society. I do appreciate. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you very much, Reverend. And I think he touched especially on the issue of education, like you mentioned earlier. And so maybe just as you conclude, maybe just your thoughts to his contributions, and also maybe on access to finance. Do you feel women have enough access to finance? Because you know that having access to finance is actually one of the ways you can achieve gender equality, when women can actually achieve financial independence. So maybe your thoughts to that and your response.
I know she has talked about a number of things, but also from the caller we noticed that he tries to contextualize the issue of equality and involvement. So do you feel going forward we should be able to define these terms correctly instead of pushing for equality, because there are certain things that comes with a woman and there are certain things that comes with being a man? Maybe the cause should be involvement.
You have another call.
In that. I hope you'll be able to remember that before we just get to this. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, good morning. You are through to Breakfast Show. Your name and where you are calling from? Are you able to get us, ma'am? Hello? Uh-oh, we lost that. Sorry about that. You can call back and just get to contribute your thought. So basically, I think I heard him well on that, and he emphasized so much on that. Maybe you can take that one.
Okay, and thank you very much, Reverend, for calling. So when we talk about gender equality, I think it's very important that people understand that we're not fighting for women and men to be equal, especially that, and I like the fact that he talked about, and he gave an example of how a man cannot conceive. So sex and gender roles are very, very different things we're looking at here, very completely different. So when you talk about gender equality, we're talking about giving opportunity to both sexes, equal opportunity, because we cannot, you and I can go to the same institution, where the University of Zambia, for example, studying the same course, we both have the brain capacity to assimilate the information that we're learning, to go and practice whatever we have learned in the communities through our work. So when you talk about gender equality, it's about giving both same opportunities.
Just hold on to that. Hello, good morning.
Hello, I'm not at the TV now. I'm outside now.
Okay, great. You can go ahead.
Hello, are you getting me?
We are getting you perfectly. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
My name is Justin from Camnet.
Okay, great. You can go ahead with your contribution on the topic.
I'm calling from Camnet.
Indeed, we're getting you.
My name is Justin.
You can go ahead.
Oh, wow.
Hello, you can go ahead.
Hello?
You can go ahead.
Miss Catherine, are you there? Are you getting us?
Hello?
Okay,
We have a technical issue there.
Maybe try to call again.
Challenge?
Yeah, we have a challenge. Obviously.
Maybe there's network problem or
yeah,
something.
maybe step on to another place or
a mountain.
Anyway.
Yeah, so as I was saying, so when we're talking about gender equality, it's not about women wanting to also impregnate women. Those are completely different issues. What we're talking about is availing opportunities, same opportunities to both men and women. And we know that, for example, when you talk about education, I think from time immemorial, it's just changed now. Families would rather take a boy child to school than a girl child because a girl would easily be married off. You find a man who already is settled and they'll take care of you. But then now that we have seen that women are more independent, there are women that don't want to get married, for example, but then want to have to sustain their lives. So we have to promote availing opportunities, equal access to opportunities in the political arena, in the socio-economic arena when it comes to accessing funds. And unfortunately, because of the background that we have, you find that women don't have what would I call collateral, for example, to access some loans that are there in the banks. But then just as though that banks also have put up these affirmative action, I think almost all the banks at the moment have some kind of a program or where women generally can access funds, and that's very, very progressive. So gender and sex roles are completely different. We're talking about opportunities, and that can be done by both sexes. Okay. We can both do mathematics. Problem even better at math than you.
Are you sure? Finance access. How is the status now in terms of access to finance from the women?
Yeah, so I think what is now lacking is information. It's very important that women or young people have access to information. We have many banks that are availing.
Let's just take that call, madam. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Yes, good morning. Is this Madam Catherine again? You are quite clear. Your contribution. Yes, your contribution, please.
My name is Catherine from the morning to the my contribution women in action. We're also the social sector that is supporting to take them to the police, but they should be right to take them to the police so that they can educate themselves. What is their education?
All right. Thank you very much for your contribution, ma'am.
Okay.
Zipa, did you catch that one?
I think. Did you get anything from there?
I just heard that she was very happy with Young Women in Action, and I think what we're doing to trying to achieve gender equality.
She did mention, I think, where someone was talking to the police station. Maybe this was a perpetrator. Okay, we're concluding remarks as we head to the next segment.
Okay, so gender equality is very important. Gender equality is about ensuring that both sexes are given equal opportunities or access to everything in the country. That's involvement in politics, access to sexual reproductive health and rights, opportunities to economic and finance, different platforms. So opportunity is very important, and everybody should play a role to ensuring that that girl child, that young woman, that woman in the country is being the best that she can be. We ensure that she is thriving, because if the woman thrives, then everybody thrives. I think everybody knows about how when you educate a woman, you educate a whole nation, because we naturally, if I may put it that way, have leadership skills embedded in us, and we can take on the challenge. Women are positive and we have the intent. Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us on set. And so just take a short break and we'll be back. We'll be joined by Professor Charles Mwape, President of the Christian Coalition, talking about expectations of the parliamentary presidential address on Friday as the head of state addresses us on national values and principles. We'll take a short break.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
We still need more players, yes, because we need to balance the team. We need to have maybe on one position 3 or 4 players.
The third Camnet Stars football trial is on. This time, Camnet Stars are looking for young, talented and skilled soccer players between the age of 18 and 20 years old. Start your lucrative football career in Europe this July. If you know you are one of Zambia's best gifted soccer players, don't waste your time. On Sunday, the 13th March 2022, there will be trials for professional soccer stars. Venue, Kablonga Boys Secondary School grounds. Time, registration 13 hours. Kick-off 14 hours. 100 kwacha non-refundable shall be paid, and your birth records must be produced upon registration. Camnet Stars, setting football standards for international market. Welcome back. We're just continuing with our interview. With this one is quietly also interesting, where we're discussing the Christian, the morals basically in our country, especially that we expect the address by the president himself in parliament to give us on the status on that call. And we're joining in our studios by Professor Charles Mwape, who's from the president for Christian Coalition. Yes. Just tell us a bit about the coalition and just a background of its formation.
Okay, the Christian Coalition is a Christian political movement.
Okay.
Which promote Christians' participation in the governance of the nation, and also to promote those Christians that aspire for political leadership. Because we believe in the coalition that in the principles and the values of the Bible, that if we are to be the head as Christians, we need to be heading in the private sector, in business sector, and in political sector. And to do this, the coalition was established in Zambia in 2004. And it is part of the Christian Coalition of America and Canada. We support its membership is drawn from Christians from various political parties. For example, you can't be a member of the Christian Coalition if you are a Christian who is non-aligned in terms of political parties. So in our National Executive Committee, we have leaders that align themselves to PF, those that align themselves to UPND and other political parties. But when we meet, we champion the agenda of promoting Christian participation in the governance of the nation, and also holding elected leaders accountable to ensure that service delivery is given to the Zambian people.
Okay, great, and quite in line with our expectation, really. Given the chance to have you in on our interview, this is the question that we would love to get from you. How is Zambia faring in terms of the national values and principles from you?
Yeah, from our perspective as a coalition, I think Zambia is on the path.
Okay.
Yes, Zambia is on the right path in terms of our morals and values, because first and foremost, we need to understand that there is a competition between the Western values and the African values. And as Zambia as a nation, more especially being a Christian nation, we are on the path. We are on the journey to ensure that we bring back children of God into the path and the agenda which they were created for. But also we remember that we are in the dispensation of the technology world, where our young people are exposed to many things that influence their lives. Therefore, as a church and as a nation, for me and for the Christian Coalition, we are on the right path.
Okay, like earlier alluded to, on Friday, the 11th of March, the head of state is scheduled to give an address to Parliament in terms of just giving an update on national values and principles. What would be your expectation from the coalition, really? What do you expect of that address?
Number one, I think we are expecting a president to address the issue of embracing each other as Christians. We are not going to pretend that we are working together as a nation. There are people that are still in the shock of elections, and we expect the president to address this nation with a sense of unity. Our belief is that in the first speech that he gave when he was elected, he says he's going to embark himself on the path to reconcile this nation. And you know, reconciliation is the biggest ministry that Jesus Christ came for, to reconcile man and God. And if he's president, in addressing this nation, he will speak on let us work together. We have a government in place. We come out from the election fatigue, because whether we supported him, we did not support him, we have a president and we have a government, and we need to rise up. And by working together, we promote the spirit of oneness in the values of one Zambia, one nation.
Okay, and so just to help us, as we set a trend into our interview, we're going to take a look at a story on values that we gathered on Saturday and hear what other clergymen had to say on the same. Zambia was declared a Christian nation in 1991 and has since then maintained its status as one of the few countries officially declared as Christian nations in the world. In this vein, the country has been expected to follow certain moral guidelines as guided by biblical requirements. Happenings in the country like high levels of alcohol abuse, however, have raised concern among concerned parties who say this is lessening productivity. With the absence of a ministry mandated to look on religious affairs, clergymen and women in the country have been expressing fears of moral decay. In this regard, anticipations among concerned parties are high, as President Hakainde Hichilema is dated to address Parliament on national values and principles on Friday, 11th March 2022. In an interview, a clergyman, Bishop John Mambo, who is also Chikondi Foundation president, has called on the head of state to also speak on the high number of...
First and foremost, the prayer the nation must be put on national alert, that we must pray for the dark cloud that is moving over Zambia in terms of the many accidents that has taken a lot of lives, buses and all that. And people will be negative about it, but if we ask God, He will redeem us and forgive us. The other thing is you have too many suicide happening. You find someone, because he can't pay his debt and all that, he can't negotiate, they come and grab his property, this person, hang himself. So that's another thing. The other thing is too much bad propaganda on a government that just, assumed office. It's like Zambia is divided. Let this country be united. Let God Almighty bring about healing into our nation. Let's open a new page. Forget about the past. Elections are over now, and all we need is development. And also, it's important that he's addressing, a number of issues that are directed to us. What is the most important so far is Zambia needs to love each other. Things are hard, they're getting harder, not just to those that are employed, even unemployed and so forth. The expectation from the youth who voted in numbers is quite high and so forth.
Meanwhile, Movement for Promoting National Values and Principles Chairman Mr. Joseph Kunda says currently alcoholism, prostitution and divorce are on the rise, and these need to be addressed.
It's a big problem in our country because it brings in complacency, it brings in naivety, it takes away industriousness, the hard working that is needed from our people. And it's almost impossible for the country to record sustainable development and economic achievements if our people could always be engulfed in abuse of alcohol. So that is quite an important part as well. So looking at the head of state, who has demonstrated good faculties in displaying a fine example in morality, I'm foreseeing a situation where we should record a decrease in the number of divorce cases taking place in the country.
Citizens have been advised to follow the address keenly as the head of state gives guidance on the path that the country should take regarding national values and principles. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka. So there you have it, a story talking about expectations from different sectors on the presidential address to Parliament on Friday. And so, Professor, we have many issues in Zambia. For example, in 2020, we witnessed the country recorded 20,000 divorce cases, even in, and then coming to just the recent Kawata by-elections, we had instances of violence. There's the high levels of alcohol abuse in Zambia, prostitution, and all that. Maybe how do you think these should be addressed if we are to live up to our Christian status?
I think first and foremost, when we address the issue of divorces, we need to go back to how these marriages, their basis. It is true that nowadays you can meet a girl or a lady in the morning, in the afternoon, you are called a fiancé or a state boyfriend, a state girlfriend. We have moved from the principle where you build a relationship by understanding a person. The principle until death do us apart is no longer there of the material things. How we can address these things is when people realize that marriage is an institution that God created. Therefore, all of us, we need to honor it. How do we honor it? Because we are in the world of competition, these gender issues, human rights, that a lady will come in the house with us until we go back to the Bible. What is the responsibility of a lady? Is submission. The responsibility of a man is love. But we have done that vice versa. At one point, a lady will tell you that I love you. is the responsibility of a different person. So until we go back to the basics and begin to value and cherish marriages, I think that also the other issue that I think Bishop John Mamba has raised there is about putting the interest of every Zambia at the center stage, and we hope and trust that the president who addressed these issues will putting the interest of Zambians on the table as we look at the values of this country. We have also mentioned the issue of prostitution and the abuse of alcohol in this country. We will be doing disservice when we say Zambians, they don't, there's a study which says that Zambian women, they drink more than men. Just go in the street from Friday, Saturday and Sunday, you'll be shocked how. So it takes a mindset. We begin to change as Zambians, but we change because when you go in town on Friday, it's a challenge. People are busy buying beers for that and for that. It has to take, if Zambia is to develop, Zambia will not develop on the basis of the UPND government. Zambia will be developed when all of us will begin to change our attitude and begin to say, we have a country to develop. We have a ministry to develop. We have a community to develop. Yes, people can drink, but not to the extent where it is today.
Okay, is it possible to attain that, and how practical is it really, given that you have from a Christian background? Maybe these are the last days.
I know. I think it's very possible, because if we are Christians, we believe in the God of possibilities, who does not fail. And I think when we look up to God, everything is possible. And when you do a survey, I sit on the board of another organization called Hope for Africa. We deal with sex workers and all that. And when you interview these girls that are in the street, some they are in the street not because they are poor. They are in the street not because they are coming from poor family. They are in the street because of peer pressure. And we need to change as a country, more especially as institutions. We need to put in a lot of psychosocial counseling, begin to rehabilitate these children. You speak to them, they've got good results. You speak to them, they have got an opportunity to go to any college, but they say, let me chill a bit and say all these things. And at the end of the day, we find that all our streets are filled with the so-called sex workers or prostitutes coming from noble and humble families. And for me, I expect even institutions like yourselves here, any institutions, to have a desk where, and this has contributed even to suicide, because people have nowhere to run to. And when we have a situation, we need to have a situation where every institution, be it a bank, be it a school, be it a university, to have trained psychosocial counselors who should be available 24/7. Who should be able, if you have a situation, speak to me. People, they don't have anyone to speak to for the fear of being condemned before they open up. So as a country, we need to begin to address social issues. For me, I would not agree to say people are killing themselves because of economic issues, because of the peer pressure. They are themselves in competition with how to live. If it's Paula here driving and you're not driving, you begin to compete without measuring your capacity to live your life your colleague is living.
The church, you can go ahead, Sephora.
If you're just joining us, you can call on the numbers that are showing on your screen. We have been joined by Professor Charles Mape, President of the Christian Coalition. So the head of state is on Friday, 11th March, expected to address Parliament on national values and principles. And so we're discussing the moral situation in the country. So what is your contribution to the same?
Yeah, the church happens to be the key driver of guiding the nation in terms of the morals and the principles, as it were. But in the recent past, we've seen the church also doing some compromisation here and there in terms of being partisan to a certain political party, and also men of God manipulating members in terms of what to do in terms of financial gifts or anything, exposing them to vices such as drink petrol or such. We've heard stories like that.
Oh, yes.
Where is the confidence going? And if at what the church is doing the needful, is it effective enough to actually preserve the society as Zambia?
I think for me, the church is doing more to ensure that we preserve our culture and the values. And I don't want to agree with you that the church has compromised. I think that
we can show you.
I think we can, unless you show me, and I think I'll be able. You can convince it because I've been
during the campaigns.
Yes.
We've had a church, a clergy actually convincing the members to support a particular political party. Haven't you seen such stories?
I am not aware of a church convincing members, but if for example, the clergy as individuals, they have the constitutional right to support and to vote.
Exactly.
When you go in the ballot box, you have to choose for a person, and that make you politically aligned by nature. And that's why for us in the coalition, we don't agree to a person that's neutral. It's detrimental to democracy, and I have never come across a pastor sitting on the pulpit and begin to say, vote for that one. I've been a pastor for the past 27 years.
I've never church, we have 400 something membership, yes, and we are voting for this particular party. You haven't heard of such?
A church. I think I'm blind. Because when you say, like for example, for us in the Christian coalition, we are a political movement. For us, we have the right to align ourselves to a political party or to support a particular individual. For example, in the previous elections, we supported President Edgar Lungu as a coalition. At constituency level, we supported MPs for UPND, we supported MPs for other parties, because that is how we are. But as a church, I am not aware.
Okay, I don't
so maybe, Professor, talking about morals, maybe the church also has been looked at as one of the places which is compromised. So, for example, maybe if we are talking about elections, you find that there's some clergymen who are actually prophesying that someone will win, and that person did not win. So these have been challenged by the stakeholders, saying they should publicly apologize because they're bringing the name of God.
Yes.
How do you look at such?
No, I think that one, when I think I would agree with him when he was saying that the church has compromised, because how can you stand and prophecy comes from God. God is speaking. And what makes me worry is that most prophets are politically inclined. We want a prophecy that you deal with a situation to come and advise the church to say, believers to say, begin to pray. This is coming. You know, like we have the Russia-Ukraine war. We expected the men and women of God to advise the world to say, this is coming, but to avert this, let us pray. But you always see who's going to win for the next election, and I think that must come to an end. And that's why you are saying that also this nonsense of preaching prosperity messages instead of sound doctrine, building people on the basis of the word of God, than to say, I see the vision, next week you'll be driving, I see the vision, you get married. I think this nonsense must come to an end. We need to restore the respect back to the church and to the calling, because we are people that are in the church not because they are called, but because they have seen an opportunity to manipulate. And this is the reason why we expect as a coalition that soon when the president addressed the nation, the Department of Religious Affairs that has been put in the office of the vice president will continue with the self-regulatory framework, so that we can end this nonsense of one waking up in the morning and tomorrow say, I'm a bishop, I'm a pastor, I'm a prophet, without undergoing the necessary training for them to be able to understand the theological and the ministry part of their calling.
So, to the question, are you effective as a church in preserving the society?
I think the church for me is trying.
That the confidence has been...
Yes. I think the confidence has been eroded, but we are still on the path to reclaim back our position as a church and to ensure that we restore the trust that we have lost, because once one man of God or one woman of God make a mistake, the blame comes to the entire body of Christ. And we have a moral responsibility to stand together and rise up beyond the previous condemnation and forge ahead.
And recently we've seen a high number of suicide cases. Maybe what role do you think the church can play in maybe reducing some of these cases?
I think the church must come back to do ministry by spending, there are the men and the women of God, they think ministry is about standing the pulpit and preach. And it's not every social issue that require prayers. The church must begin, the pastors and the bishop and the prophets must begin to have time with the people, with the community, so that they are able to speak to them when they have a challenge. Because pastors of today, to speak to them on a social issue, they want you to put a seed. You know, they want you to make an appointment to see them. They have become so important, and they have the bodyguards all over. I think the ministry is a calling to save the poor.
Okay. In case you're just joining us, we have Professor Charles Mope, President of the Christian Coalition. We're talking about the moral situation in the country. President Hakainde Hichilema is this Friday expected to address Parliament on national values and principles. What is the current moral situation in the country? What would you like to see different? So you can call in on the numbers that are showing. And so, Professor, we can also talk about social media. How do you think social media is currently being used? I think
the social media is being abused. Social media has become an alarmist and being used to promote hate speeches. We hope and trust that the Ministry of Information and Media, with the stakeholders, they will develop a proper regulatory framework to ensure that social media, if social media will not be checked, they will continue dividing this country. Make a comment over anything. The way they will come on you, they will be personal, they will say many things, and I think colleagues, mostly you colleagues in the media, begin to reflect that you have a responsibility to ensure that the peace that this country has been enjoying is sustained, because with the current language that we've monitored on social media, we may plunge this nation into serious divisions amongst political stakeholders or religion or otherwise. Okay, and Zambia was declared a Christian nation in 1991. Looking at the overall picture, are we on the right path, or maybe do we need something like an Indaba or something to actually discuss the moral situation? Are we on the right path? But I think Zambia, being a Christian nation, has assisted us in many ways. And by principle, we would say 90% of the Zambians are Christian. Because I ask this one, do you go to church? No, I'm a Christian. Ask this one, do you go to church as a Christian? But we need to do more. At 30, we don't want to be, at 30, you are behaving like you are 15. We hope and trust that Zambia at 30, from the time it was declared as a Christian nation, we begin to see embracing each other, loving each other. I can tell you this, that in this country, there are classes in terms of the clergy. There are those clergy with bigger churches. They meet at that class. Those from Karingaringa at this class. At 30, we need to begin to say calling is the same. We begin to build capacity for each other, support for each other, and ensure that we embrace and translate. I like the statement by President Hakainde Hichilema to say, declaration of Zambia as a Christian nation is one side, but actualizing it, we want to see that it's actualized by ensuring that people can see that, yes, this is a Christian nation where Christian and social ethics are seen in our community, in our working places, in our markets, and people are saying that, yes, this is a Christian nation.
What would be the prosperity attachment to being a Christian nation? You know, we have resources as a country, don't we, with a lot of natural resources, but still we're struggling just to make ends meet on an ordinary perspective, from a layman's perspective. Having been a Christian nation like you earlier did for 30 years now, what could be the prosperity expectation from us being a Christian nation?
I'm sure what we expect, first and foremost, there must be a good political will to consider the church as a stakeholder in development. And considering the church as a stakeholder in development is by providing opportunities to Christians. In terms of what I was saying, when I started to say, when there are opportunities for political appointment, for business, let the church get involved and ensure that we take men and women of integrity into public office.
How has it been before? You have never been included in most cases?
No, I think the church has been involved. I think I'm sure from the beginning, but we needed more of ensuring that the church is considered as one. You know, because always I have seen that when the so-called the three mother church bodies speak, the church has spoken. And when you do an assessment, that there are more churches that do not affiliate to any of this. We are looking for an opportunity where, as Zipporah put it, where there is an endeavor, bring everyone on board and hear their voices. They may have good suggestion that can work for us to ensure that we move together as a country, we participate together in the governance of this country as a country. The church move together through promoting a unit of purpose that will lead into ensuring that we have a church, we speak collectively as a church.
So currently, how many churches are under the three mother bodies? Is there 3 churches?
No, I think the government always refer to 3 church mother bodies. Yeah. Okay, and when you do the assessment, and first and foremost, also we need to understand that it is important that a platform is always provided for the church. You know, in every governance system in the world, there are 2 systems of governance that prevail. There is the political system and the religious system. When these 2 systems work parallel, it affects service delivery to the citizen. Our humble and our prayer is to see that this modern administration will work together with the church to deliver services to the Zambian people. Because once the church and the political parties, they have one constituency, the people. They will go to political rallies, and on Sunday they come to church. So we need to have same message that they are getting from political leaders, and we are giving them as a pledge or as a church, so that we can move together, ensuring that everyone feels they are important and they have energy or something to share to develop our country.
Yeah, so and in what ways do you feel the church and the government, maybe in what ways do they collide? Really, in which ways do they differ?
I think where government begin to impose certain things, like previously, you know, when the government was trying to bring in immigration in terms of the church that are imposed on them. I think there is need to take a consultative route to ensure that the church participate, government participate for the sake of the unity of this country and the development of this country, because both institutions are key to service delivery. That's why if the churches are running hospitals, churches are running schools, and government are running hospitals, government are running schools, which means they are all important stakeholders contribution. They are contributing to the growth of the Zambian people in one way or another.
What's an priority in terms of on your table as a collusion? What do we expect going forward? What are the things that you're working on?
I think for us, what we are working on is to educate our members that as believers we have been watching from afar and isolating, because we have been told that politics is a dirty game, and people are too holy to talk about politics, and we have been educating them to say, no, establish yourself in your political party. The party that you believe in, the party that you can support. We want to ensure that we have a Christian vote that will speak on integrity, that will speak on governance, that will speak on good morals. Because once, you know, like here, when you have a good elder who has been keeping the funds for the church, the church would be able to say, I think you have done good work, let us send you to the council chambers. Take integrity there, take moralities. But what we know now is that once a believer as part of political office, they say you are backslidden. So our preoccupation is to change the narrative, to say politics is not a bad game. And that's why the Bible says, when the righteous rule, the nation will rejoice. This does not mean that once I become a bishop, the nation will rejoice. While I become an archbishop, the nation will rejoice. This will mean that once I take the position of power, that I'm able to make a decision in the best interest of God's children, the nation will say, yes, We have leaders that are going to provide service delivery. And Christians can only do this once they change their mind, they begin to participate in politics within their political party. What we don't agree as a coalition is to come up with a political party for Christians. We want them to integrate in various political parties where they are, so that they are able to influence decisions within those particular political parties.
And right now, Professor, we've seen the country going on the path of fighting corruption. How do you feel it is being done as a church? How do you look at the issue of their head, even people cry, it's being done in a certain way, and all that? How do you feel, or maybe how do you better feel it can be done?
I think for us, government has started well through the Anti-Corruption Commission. I'm sure the nation will recall the route of Faithfulness on the case, whose proceed has been given to the students who were left out for bursaries. Yeah. And our appeal to government, the drafters of the Anti-Corruption Commission Act, they provided that provision that you can surrender yourself and offer to say, oh, colleagues, this is the thing that I stole, and try to resolve the case outside the mitigation or the courts. Our appeal is that let the Anti-Corruption Commission, I think, begin to promote that kind of approach, because once we go to court has its own procedures. People go there for defense, place on somebody on defense, they begin to argue. By the time we realize it will be 2026 fighting one case, and also on the other side, the people you are taking to court, they have the other people that believe in them, who presume them to be innocent. They need to work against the vision of the president who is saying he wants to reconcile this nation. The faithfulness on the approach to fight corruption is the best, because it quickly will have the money, quickly will recover, and the settlement will make people, first and foremost, within themselves, see, I am guilty, and I bring this back, and the nation will be moving. So far, we can say government is on a good path to ensure that we fight corruption, and the fight against corruption is beyond the government. It's all of us, we have to get involved to ensure that we should detest corruption, we should report corruption, and we should just not talk about it. Morals and integrity should be at the core of every sector of society.
Great. Like you earlier alluded, the expectations are quite high in terms of on Friday, where we anticipated delivered speech by His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema, to deliver a speech to the Parliament. And maybe in your closing remarks, going forward past the speech and everything, what is the environment and the mood in the country as expected by the coalition? In your concluding remarks.
I think for us, we are looking forward to this address by the President, and we are hoping that it will not only end on the address to the nation. There will be policy statements that will be able to be implemented by line ministries to ensure that the issues of values and principles are addressed, so that when the next address to Parliament, we are going to say, in the previous address, the President directed this, now we have achieved this. If the issue of working together, the issue of reconciliation, the issue of fighting poverty, and above all, the issue of ensuring that we promote the unity of purpose amongst Zambians is key on the agenda of what we expect is the President to inform the nation through our Parliament.
And maybe going forward as a church, issues of cadarism, what would you like to see concerning that?
I think we have seen a reduction, and first and foremost, as long as we have political parties, we will have cadres. And as long as we have cadres, it is a duty of particular political parties to educate their cadres to say being a cadre does not mean that you should be violent. You need to promote politics of engagement. That if I don't agree with the UPND, I must not be looked as an enemy. They need to engage me and convince me. If I don't agree with the MND cadres must engage me to say, no, we have these policies against this. Let's promote politics of engagement as opposed to politics, if we differ with you, then we have to fight. Zambia has grown in terms of democracy. As long as we live, we are going to have, and we need to educate the cadres that at every given time, we are going to have one political party in government and several parties in opposition, because this is what we agreed for in 1990s to embark on the journey of a multi-party participatory democracy. There shall never be a time when we shall have one party in this country. And if we are going to have several parties, which means we are going to have people that support a different political party, but the best route is engagement. We engage on issues, we reason together, and we move forward.
Very insightful. And there you have it. So that has been our guest, Professor Charles Mwape from the Christian Collusion, talking about expectations of from the parliamentary address on Friday by the head of state, who's going to be addressing the parliament on national principles and values. Earlier in the interview, we were joined by Harriet Chibuta, who is the executive director for the Young Women in Action, just taking us into the theme for tomorrow's Women's Day celebrations. Indeed, that has been quite a great show, Zipporah, I should mention. And thank you so much for Professor, really, for coming through. And I don't know if you have anything to tell the viewers out there as you conclude.
I think as I conclude is that let us remember that Zambia is bigger than all of us. And let us remember that we are living in a multi-party participatory democracy. It will always be one this side, one the other side. And above all, let us remember that we have a government. We have a president. Let us rise above petty party politics, because the failure of this government is a failure of every Zambian. Then therefore, let's leave politics to 2026 and begin to support the developmental agenda that this government has embarked on.
That is Professor Charles Mwape, who's the president for Christian Collusion. Same time tomorrow, you'll get us an update of the community desk here with me, Alex Shimba, and also my co-host, Shala Zipporah. On DSTV, we come on channel 274 and GoTV 98 and also Topstar 106. You can also catch us live streaming on Facebook. That is Camnet TV Zambia. You just click the button, you like the page, and you get to be notified whenever we come live on your screens. Do join us tomorrow, same time, 7 hours to 9 hours. It has been here on our breakfast show. Good morning and pleasant viewing.